I sent Heather a memo saying, let's wear the same color top today.
Oh gosh, I didn't even notice that, Lee.
Well,
There you go.
that's what we do.
Yeah, we're coordinated. You want to, you know.
Just to emphasize the alignment we have.
We're very aligned.
Yeah, we are. So we kind of went ahead with some things, and Ben did a nice job participating. But just for everybody, Heather Johnson's been the commissioner, and we're a strong partner with the department and her whole team. Everything from CDBG to NBRC and the CARES Act and ARPA, and we rely on DCD for the TIF, advice and just about everything. And if you think about what's happened in the last couple of years with the pandemic, it's really been quite extraordinary. And part of what Heather and her colleagues in this administration have had to do is kind of restore state government process and programs. And so that was one challenge. Then the pandemic hit. But as a member of the governor's economic recovery committee, it was pretty clear right from the beginning that Heather and her team were going to play a key role in, where do we go in the future? And we talked to Heather about the SEDS before you came on and how important it was for that to align with your effort for the 10-year plan. And it was really crucial. So anyway, Heather does a great job. We're pleased to have this partnership. And also in your packet is a webinar that Heather and I did. State of Maine was an example, a national example on how a local economic development group can work with the state. And remarkably, Heather, evidently we might be the only ones, because that was some of the feedback in their surveys they got.
Huh.
And for us, for Heather and I, it was just like natural. This is what we do here in Maine. And so it's really important. And, we have a good relationship, and it just keeps growing, and just appreciate it and appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, thank you, Lee, for inviting me and Ben as well to kind of join you. We got started, I don't know if you remember this, Lee, but when we got started in, 2019, early 2019, I don't even think I'd been confirmed yet, but one of the first groups of calls I made was to the EDDs to say, look, let's get together. Let's figure out, how we do this next 4 years. What does this look like? How do we build these relationships back? What do we need? Where are the gaps in the economic development, continuum? How do we fill those gaps? What do the communities and businesses need from all of us as partners? And how and where do we start to fill those holes? And so Lee and EMDC have been right at the front of that table the whole time, right? With ideas of where gaps are, with willingness to fill in gaps that we're seeing, not just necessarily even in the service area when we get desperate and need help outside of the service area. A couple of times you guys have been really quick to step in. So we appreciate that a lot. I am a big believer that good economic development happens as close to the project as possible, right? Our role at the state can be to help larger enablers, to help remove barriers when you have them, and to support kind of that local project support. So, I think what we've seen over the last 3 years since we've all been kind of working together at this is some really good things. We've seen strong economic growth, taxable sales are up, GDP from January 2019 to April of this year, we were growing 11th fastest in the country. And so, rarely are we that high. Certainly we won't stay that high. That's a not sustainable level for us. But I think what it shows is the system is potentially putting better supports in, because we are now all working together and aligned, and Maine has become a really attractive place for business investment. And so as those things come together, at least for now, we've been able to capitalize on that. I do want to be clear that, right, there are a lot more things that we want to do, a lot more things we want to partner with EMDC on. There are real opportunities. For example, workforce, I think, is a big one. Our workforce is back to the same number of people working as it was pre-pandemic. And so, as we look at the landscape and are out and about, people will say, where are all the people? Where did they go? And the reality is they're all back at work. The same number of people now are working than were working pre-pandemic. what's happened is our economy's grown pretty dramatically, and our economy's certainly grown faster than we've added people to the workforce. And so the people came back, they may have come back to a different role because lots of other roles opened up. Wages are up 9.6%, which tells you that they are taking higher wage jobs, or people are having to pay more for the same job before. And so I think now the question is, how do we continue to infuse productivity growth? How do we attract new people to the workforce? How do we make sure workforce participation rates are where they need to be and continue to grow? How do we attract new people in? And I would also say, right, how do we think about innovation differently so that these roles that are repetitive and able to be automated, maybe we start thinking about that too, right? I mean, there was a time, I don't know how many years ago, we would have sat in this room and said, geez, a forklift, nobody should have a forklift. We need to make sure people are moving these big heavy bags because, right, you don't want to displace that role. I think right now we would think of that as being, well, of course you're going to do it the easiest way you can. And allow those workers to be upskilled into how do you drive the forklift? How do you maintain the forklift? How do you upgrade the forklift? And I think that's, where we are in a lot of cases right now, particularly with manufacturing. There are a lot of things that we can find ways to automate and allow the workers to do upskilled work, and it will take the pressure off some of the workforce gaps. We aren't going to be able to fill the workforce gaps at the speed at which our economy can grow if we can figure out the productivity piece. So that's something that I think we'll all probably spend a lot of time on over the next couple of years. Workforce is, key. From the Maine Jobs and Recovery package, we've invested a lot of money in workforce, in front level workforce, and making sure workforce participation rates stay high and grow. In mid-level workforce, in free community college, that work, and then in reskilling and retraining. So I think across the workforce continuum, there are key investments that are intended to keep our workforce at as high a rate as possible. And then obviously there are attraction options, like how do we bring people in from other states? We're going to be doing an active college recruiting campaign in September in the Northeast to try to go out to some of these Northeastern universities and talk to them about opportunities in Maine as they start thinking about where they're going to land after college. So there's a lot of work going on there too. There is a package for credentialing. So as people kind of come to Maine, either from other countries or other states, and they have credentials of value, how do we help them translate those credentials of value to Maine so that they can have the opportunity to work in the roles that they are trained and skilled for. So I think there's a lot of work going on in workforce. I think we are all, but I guess I just wanted to talk a little bit about the automation piece, because I do think that that's an important piece as we go forward. Certainly the intent is not to displace workers, but to fill those gaps where we don't have workers and really keep our economy growing. I think there's certainly always concern that we've got to maintain that productivity level in order for your economy to grow. And so we've got to find that right balance, and each business and nonprofit will have to decide that for themselves, right? But we can offer support, and we can work with Maine MVP and others, the university, to kind of think about, what are those options for businesses. So, and then Lee, you talked a little bit about kind of, the pandemic response work and the way our teams partnered there to get money to local businesses and organizations that were kind of lifelines. And now we kind of shift, right, thinking into, there are still some places that, right, will need that kind of emergency assistance, but there's also some opportunity to invest a little bit in some growth categories so that it's less of an emergency, right? We can focus on kind of sustainable and diverse growth that will allow us to weather, this global economic activity that is kind of right in front of us as effectively as possible, right? I think, as we all watch the global landscape, there's a lot happening, very difficult to predict. So I think what we'll try to do is invest in kind of diverse and strong supply chains so that, it gives us the best opportunity to weather to weather kind of what's in front of us.
Yeah. And I have to say, your interaction with Commissioner Fortman with labor is the best I've ever seen with DCD and labor, and that's really important. And also, I just want to point out that we've got our congressional delegation here from Senator Collins and Senator King and Congressman Golden, and that's another key component in helping Maine move forward. That having this, the fact that they're here today attending this shows how supportive everybody is.
Yeah, we're really lucky as a state, and sometimes I think we forget that, right? Like it's easy to get the federal delegation together, like in one room, to say, okay, here's what we care about. What do you care about? How do we navigate this together? It doesn't matter. Party doesn't matter, right? I think everybody puts Maine before all of the other pieces in general, and gives us a real opportunity. Doesn't mean we always agree. Doesn't mean we always end up at the same place necessarily, but just the ability to kind of have those discussions is something that I think we take for granted. But when you talk about things like that, like to my peers, they're all like, they give you the dog face, like they don't do that in other states at the same level, certainly. So, I think we're really fortunate.
Thank you so much, Commissioner, for coming today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lee. Nice to see you all. I hope you have a great 4th of July and great summer. It looks like the tourism bookings are really up this year, so we're confident that that's going to go well. And
great,
we're excited. We think it's going to be a good summer.
Yay!
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks again.
Thank you all.
Thanks.